Hi, welcome to the pursuit of truth. So, just a quick one, as I always say. This is about another of mine old videos that's been removed, number 396 now. They're going through the 300s. Um, After I had a 1 week strike for two videos that I edited out, what I thought they would have a problem with, and took bits out and re recorded, and still they got rid of them very, very quickly, which makes me think they didn't even bother to check. They thought I just uploaded the same ones, which is a bit unfair. But there's no right of recall once you've submitted an appeal. There's no way of contacting no one about it. So I've re-edited them completely, done a new voice explaining, and kept one clip of one, which I think is okay for those two, and I will release them after the 30-day warning period runs out. But during that, I've got another one, 396, that's gone for medical misinformation again. And I've listened to it and I can't find any medical misinformation. Yes, I did reference some claims that people were making at that time of COVID, which probably I heard on YouTube, if not also mainstream media, people talking about them. But I countered it with, that I didn't believe in those things, and it can't be a case of just because I reference them that suddenly now that you're spreading medical misinformation, you know. And I've used this example before, and with them as well. That it's like, if I was to quote something from Mein Kampf or something from the Second World War that was anti-Semitic, that was, talking about that, that doesn't mean that I'm anti-Semitic. I'm quoting someone else. I'm saying something that's been said or which is known. Like if we talk about the Holocaust, and what happened there, and it being anti-Semitic and etc. I'm not, by me referencing those things, or what other soldiers did, like I did in the previous one. That's just me referencing things, and then like you do in any, like when I was taught at school about having sources, and how you have a source, and you source, different types of sources, first hand, second hand, and then you make the argument and your conclusion, all that kind of stuff. That's all I'm doing. I reference some things about to do with, was it again COVID-19? I don't know why they're so up about it now, when it's like, I doubt anyone's looking at those videos. but but yeah, I just referenced some what other people had mentioned, and I like poo-pooed them, I rubbished them, and said how, I was talking about the dangers of trying to find knowing what the truth is. Um, so I don't understand why that, they put a long sentence, mentioned Article 10, which is about freedom of speech, the European Union one, which is adopted by the UK. Because I feel that, I mean, they argue it's a private entity, because there was a case in America where someone tried to make it out that this is a public forum, so why aren't we allowed to speak like we are and say in the street? And they claim it's private. And I guess, yes, I get it is a private company, but it is public in the way that anyone can access it. You don't have to have an account to access YouTube. And so I don't know whether that argument is actually true. I think it is a sort of public company as well as a private company. So I don't know, but I just think that I'm never telling people. But the thing is, like, also this argument of like, what is medical misinformation? Like, in that video, I mentioned some claims, and then I rubbish them and say that how difficult it is to find what the truth is, and I'm having an intellectual conversation about that, and then I go on to talk about the George Floyd incident. So the fact is that that's exactly why in their training video that I went through, and it's on here, where they have, is it wrong if someone talks about something and then counters it, or you have someone who says something that's maybe medical misinformation, but you have an expert, I guess, because I'm not an expert, but I did do that job of countering it, because I was talking at the beginning about, unless it's this bit, but I'm talking about my experience, my own personal experience of having the COVID vaccination and the after effects. I think it was the first one, because the first one it did, got an arm, and it got like the flu type symptoms for that first 24 hours. and then the next one I didn't get it, and I think the third one I actually got it worse than the first one. I'm not sure which one that is I'm talking about. Even my wife got it, and my dad got it. So that's not medical misinformation. That's me relating actual, unless they think that, oh, I'm making it up. But then, prove that. But now they're taking a long time about it. I'm sure they're still going to reject it. I don't know. But it seems like you can't say anything. You can't even make mention of something. And I don't think that is medical misinformation. I'm like not quoting, but I'm saying like I've seen this. Like where I put with an example, I played a recording that I was sent, and then because that recording has those things in it, that attributes to me. And then I suppose it's what's the basis of sharing, sharing to debate on it. So that's very problematic when you have that kind of thing. And also the fact that I get it because it's their YouTube, isn't it? And they allow us to put videos on there, and we join. So I get it that they can have rules that may not match how I would want them to be, or how. Well, I suppose they have to match at least the domain of the country they're in. But the problem is because they're registered somewhere else, maybe that doesn't work. I don't know, because I guess they're registered in America. So is it based on their laws, or whose laws is it based on that it has to? Because you can't just set up a company and make up your own laws when it comes to certain things, especially when it. But they seem to be getting away with it now, with deciding that they are the oracle. I suppose it's because they've got a lot of stick from the mass media of like, oh, don't trust social media, which is usually the thing, and they're trying to clean that act up. And I get it, I get that because there are things where, I've watched things on YouTube and in that video and talking about them and trying to say, well, but there are people who will be swayed by such things. So yeah, I get it. There should be, but there's lots of stuff that they should start on first on YouTube. I think that's against their policy, and I think they have to be careful where they're getting into freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and just actually referencing this is what I've heard and this is what I think. What do you think? I don't see a problem in that. I don't know what you could put in the beginning of that video to make that video okay. Because I'm sure like Russell Brand and all sorts of other people are saying all sorts of things. But their videos aren't getting taken down. Or maybe they are, I don't know. Possibly they are. But yeah, that's the update. That's I'll update you. You'll see if it comes back or not. 306 currently it's off. And the other two I'll put on after the 30 days, which I think is the 11th of January. I might do it because I've already recorded them and edited them and everything and rendered them. And then recently I've been watching, is it Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse, the second series? I've seen the first series before. Really good series, a take on humanity. It did make me think about this idea because they were talking about like the hero concept of in before, was it 13,000 BC when the flood or the apocalypse or whatever event took place. That after that there were people that like Osiris and etc. who came out and led people. Of course, I suppose you could sort of characterize that as hero. You could but it could just have been a person, that was very, like if there was an event here, people would stand up and then have to, like you see in the events where a terrible earthquake or whatever, and someone comes out, and saves someone. There are those individuals that will stand up and do this, or have got great wisdom and remember how to do things. And I suppose they could be seen as like, oh, are they, an alien or some kind of deity, and can be misrepresented as that. So I don't know, but it was interesting how Graham Hancock, he was sort of talking about these bricks things that was saying that the people of this time, they couldn't have built them, but his argument is that there was a civilization pre the 13th century. I'm sounding like him now, but then when he talks about those ones that saying that maybe this war was already here, but then again that's the same argument. You're saying that the people before, you're saying these people didn't have the technology to do it, so maybe the war was already here. Okay, so we're going further back and we're saying that these people didn't have the technology, so what makes you think that these ones did? But of course, I suppose that's also because the way we always think of things is we think of, as linear, as that things get better. That's not always logically going to be the case. And we always think that we're the most civilized, and they weren't. Down to the Neanderthals. to sort of as if it's an upward. But maybe there were, maybe we did have, if we've been here for millions of years or thousands of years, I don't know which is accurate, but how long we've been, in this capacity of being able to think and do things, is that maybe we did create all this technology and it all got wiped off. I suppose though, if we can find so-called, dinosaurs and things, that we would be finding technology like Planet of the Apes, um, which is like that concept, isn't it? But because they're sort of saying that why did they push all these blocks? I don't know why. If they were making a wall, why didn't they make the bricks? Because they're huge bricks that weigh so much. Why didn't they make the bricks? Logically, I'm thinking when I'm watching it, why didn't they make the bricks closer to the wall so they didn't have to drag them so far? Why did they make them so far away and then drag them with 10,000 people or whatever it was? I mean, maybe they used animals, which I would have thought, would have been, like horses and to help them drag things, like I guess the Egyptians did. Well, whenever you see the films of like Moses and stuff, you see them doing that. Whether that's historically accurate, I don't know. But yeah, I suppose if 10,000 people could move a thing, that I guess the question is, physically that may be possible. The question you should be asking is, why did they do that? Why didn't they just have the quarry or whatever to make the bricks nearer? Maybe the material was so far away, that was the problem. But it may have been better to take the sludge material here, close to the wall, and then do it. But they were saying maybe they were moulded bricks and all sorts of things, because they're talking about shapes. But it is interesting, and I agree with him in the sense that all too often humans stick to this is exactly how it is. This is how our books are, not remembering that we keep changing things and we keep learning different things and adapting. And if you keep to that one thing, thinking, well, this is it, that's not always the case, because they used to say there'd been impossible for water to be on the moon or Mars or wherever, and then years later they actually find some or little species or whatever, and then then they have to go back on that thing, or the different gaps between planets that have changed throughout the years because we've got better at calculating things. So we shouldn't fall into that thing of always thinking, well, this is what's right. I mean, let's be open-minded. It's great to be open-minded and think about these things. But yeah, it is interesting to hear about these stories and this idea of a pre-civilization, because I know I mentioned this with the first series on Pursuit of Truth. But yeah, I did get to his logic a little bit of sort of on that point. But yeah, it's very interesting. But there's a lot of hyperbole of music there to make it seem, and the way they edit it and whatever. But it would be interesting to know. And it is interesting, like, to have these like creation stories and hear all these things of how did we become this species? How did we evolve to this? To this place. That why did people build all these structures, or maybe it was because of rituals or death or whatever, or like a monument type thing, or their way of celebrating when someone demises, or which is what these circles and things and all these different patterns that can be found around the world that match each other. I mean, I suppose if we were one group of people in one area and then we all dispersed, it's much like, I guess, people can come up with the same inventions. The space race, two different countries came up with different rockets and things. People coming up television or light bulbs, all sorts of things, where it isn't just one person. Lots of people can have these ideas. It's just the first one gets there and then they think, oh, that only that person thought of it. Whereas there could be loads of things, loads of people that think of the same thing. Some of them actually can manage to do it, and some of them only think it. So that could be why we get the same patterns or the same things. Is there, did these people meet before? Is it a learning that was given from somewhere else, or whatever it was? I mean, it's very interesting. But yeah, it's on Netflix now. Right, that's me. Take care, take it easy, God bless, peace.